Thursday, and that means it's time for Facebook Live with the WOW community. Trying something a little different tonight, not using my traditional microphone, because it seems like when I listened last time and reviewed the videos, there was this disconnect between my talking and the video, and quite honestly, it was very distracting and very hard to watch. So I'm going straight with the microphone that's contained in the iPad, so I hope this works out better. At least the sound may not be as professional, but at least it'll sync with what my mouth is saying. So I hope that's better. Yeah, we're going real casual tonight. If you'll notice, haven't done too many with a hat, but I'm doing this for two reasons tonight. Number one is I was in surgery a good part of the day. And, we have to wear those things on our head so hair doesn't fall into the incision. Pretty good idea. A real remarkable development in surgery. But it's really bad for your do. It really messes with your do. And I just didn't have time when I got home from the office today to redo my do. So I stuck on the hat. But more importantly, if you're watching this live, it's January 2nd. It's the Tax Slayer Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida. And my boys, the Tennessee Vols, are playing tonight. And I tell you, I know all you haters. I know all you Tigers and Bulldogs and Gamecocks are probably going to send me a lot of trash for this. But my boys have been on a kind of a slide lately, if you hadn't noticed. They've had a rough decade. And to make it back to a bowl game after starting the season losing to Georgia State, you got to give us some cred, some props for being able to make it back that far. So I'm celebrating my guys being in the Tax Slayer Bowl this evening. So I apologize to all the surrounding people who blood runs, well, I would call it orange, but I'm not sure Clemson is really orange. This is the real orange. But if you're a Gamecock or a Bulldog, who have done quite well, really can't complain. So you got to cut me a little slack tonight, Judy and Donna and Cindy. Now, I know Cindy's watching. She's a big Clemson fan, if I remember right. No, she's a Gamecock. She's a Gamecock. So she needs to cut me a little slack if she sees this tonight. So I'm wearing it to celebrate that. But put up with me. And if you tolerate the casual attire, I really didn't have time to change. So this is truly very, very much live, so I appreciate you tolerating with us tonight. If you'll stay with me, I'm not going to be here very long this evening, but I do want to give you a couple of things that I think will be very, very helpful in helping you make those New Year's resolutions stick. It's a new year. Everybody wants to reduce, revive, reignite, restore, start over, begin anew, and it's a great thing. It's wonderful. It's too bad that we only have to have one day a year that we can do that. We really ought to be able to do that year-round. But the fact is that it's a new beginning. It's a new start. It's a new time. And it's a good time to sit and reevaluate and sit and rethink about what direction you're going health-wise or in relationships or in your spiritual life, in your family life. It's a great time to begin to reassess that. But the problem is, if you're like me, you make a resolution, you start out excited, and probably within about 3 weeks, you've already blown it. You've already busted that resolution. Well, you might be wondering, well, why are we even talking about resolutions on a Facebook page that's really devoted to health? Well, if you look at studies and statistics, about 90% of New Year's resolutions have to do with health and wellness. So I thought it was very applicable at this time of year, and with everybody refocusing on trying to become a better person from a health standpoint, that it only makes sense that if I could give you a couple of simple suggestions that might actually help you make those resolutions stick, those changes really take effect. I mean, what good are they if they really just fall by the wayside within January 14th or 15th by the time that rolls around? So it's a great time to rethink that. Before we get into that a whole lot, though, I do want to thank a lot of the new members. We're really growing. I appreciate so much people who are making referrals. If you know somebody you think would benefit from what we're doing on an ongoing basis, and thank you so much for the interaction. This holiday season has been really fun for me because of all the wonderful greetings and kind words that have been on the Facebook page, and the support that you've been giving other people when they'd ask questions or pose issues. So I really appreciate that interaction. It really means a lot to me, and I hope that we're able to bring some value to you guys. So if you know somebody, family, friends that could live anywhere, we even have some people now from outside the country. So if you have folks that you think might benefit from what we're doing here, either reviewing past Facebook Lives or going, I bet a lot of you don't even remember that we've got a lot of other resources on the web page. If you go up and click on the files, it'll take you to a whole list of PDF files, including a free download of my book, A Woman's Guide to Hormone Health. That's on there just for you guys. So don't forget, you've got these other resources on the page. So I would encourage you to, if you're not utilizing them now, to go and see those and check those out and review all the videos too. Let's see. Hey, Rhonda, Happy New Year to you. Catherine Ferrara, good to see you. Glad you're watching. Appreciate that. I try not to be like the dog chasing the squirrel. You know, you're out walking the dog and the squirrel runs by and you just dart out after it. And I try to sometimes not look so much down there at the feed because I don't want to be distracted from what I'm saying. But it really do appreciate everybody who's watching this. It means a lot, and I appreciate you signing in and giving me some props there. But anyway, what I was getting back to is I appreciate all the referrals. If you got family and friends, just submit their names, and I'll be happy to review it. And if it's somebody that you refer, I can almost guarantee they're going to be a part of this program, a part of this page, because if you refer them, I know they're quality, good folks who are going to really contribute and be a part of what we're doing here. So with that being said, let's get into a little bit of what I wanted to talk about tonight. There is a wonderful couple of folks that I met a while back that I wanted to tell you a little bit about. Two man and a father and a son, Dick and Rick Hoyt, H-O-Y-T. They're really pretty remarkable. You know, Dick's, I think, about 70-something now, and Rick's in his 40s. And together, this father-son team have run about 900 endurance events. I mean, these are things like marathons and triathlons and Ironmen. And it's pretty remarkable for a father and son team to have done that. But what really makes this remarkable is that Dick is now about 75 and Rick is about 45. But Rick has cerebral palsy, and he's been pretty much immobilized in a wheelchair since birth. And he communicates by tapping out on a computer because he can't speak. So this whole story started back in 1977 when Rick was about 15, and he came home one day and tapped out on his computer that he wanted to run a 5K in the town there to support somebody who was having a bout with illness. It was a fundraiser. Well, of course, he's wheelchair bound, so he knew his dad would have to push him. His dad had never run before. He had never been an athlete at that point, but you know, when your 15-year-old son says, "Hey, Dad, this sounds like this would be something fun to do, let's do it." So he got the wheelchair. Remember, this was back in 77 before they had all these fancy wheelchairs for pushing runners. This is pretty much the old standard wheelchair that we all know. So they show up at the race start, and like many races back then, that wasn't very common. People didn't do that very often. I mean, this was 50 years ago almost. So it was not something that people were used to seeing. So when they showed up there, Dick in his running shorts and Rick in his wheelchair, his regular standard wheelchair, the race director really was hesitant, said, "I'm just not sure this is going to work. You're probably not even going to make it around the first turn of the race." Well, you know, Dick was kind of a codgy fellow, and he said, "No, we'll stay out of everybody's way. We're going to find." So they took off, and they actually finished the race and weren't last. But that began this incredible journey. And what was fascinating is after that first race, Rick typed out on his computer, "Dad, I love this. It makes me feel like I'm not handicapped. That's all it took. From that moment on, Dick and Rick were inseparable and literally become fixtures at things like the Boston Marathon. They ran 24 Boston Marathons together. They did 8 Ironmen where he would swim and pull Rick in a raft during the swimming portion, put him on the back of his bike, on the bike, and then push him for a full marathon in the chair. But just that intensity, that love, the amount of money they've raised for charity, the amount of people that they've inspired over the years has just been fantastic. I had the pleasure to meet them at one of the Boston Marathons, and just spent very few minutes just being in their presence and talking with them was just a thrill for me because I knew their story. And after you're finished here, if you go to the Google and just type in Dick Hoyt, H-O-Y-T, there's some amazing videos online that will really be inspirational. But I thought about that specifically as it relates to resolutions, and I wanted to tell you that story because Dick would say there's many mornings that he would get up and he just didn't feel like going out and training. He didn't feel like putting it all in that day. But all it took was thinking back to that one day back in 1977 when his son said, "This is the one thing that makes me happy, that makes me feel like I'm not handicapped." And he said, if I got up that day and just made it through that day, no matter what it was, then I felt like a winner. And I knew that Rick felt like a winner. But we just took that one day at a time. We just understood that it was not about the big picture as much as it is about that one day. Well, that kind of applies to when we think about resolutions, when we think about deciding that we're going to change habits. It goes back to what we call the 1%, meaning that if you have a resolution, if you have a goal, if you have a desire to change something in your health or your wellness, you don't need to set some huge lofty goal and worry about some overnight transformation. Oh, I'm going to stop eating carbohydrates tomorrow, or I'm going to quit smoking tomorrow. That's not the way life works. It doesn't happen that way. What you need to focus on is just being 1% better each day. If you can just do it 1% better, if you can just say, if I can go through this day and just be 1%, which is tiny, it's a small increment, then that compounds, that will grow over time, that you'll eventually reach whatever goal you set. But it all goes back to, as Dick did, getting up each day and saying, if I can make it through this day, if I can accomplish what I want to accomplish this day, if I can be 1% better this day, then I'm going to be a winner. I'm going to achieve whatever needs to be achieved, whether that has to do with your health, your wellness, your faith, your relationships, your family, regardless, your work. It doesn't make any difference. It's all the same. Dick understood the concept of 1% better. Success is the product of daily habits. It's not a single transformational act. It's a matter of getting up every day and deciding that persistence is better than perfection. That if I'm going to achieve this resolution, whatever it is, I don't have to transform my life. I can just make that 1% change on a daily basis. You know, we talked about weight loss in the past, and the reason I bring weight loss up so often is 86% of people's resolutions oftentimes include weight loss. Well, when it comes to weight loss, you don't want to just walk in one day and say, I think I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Because chances are that's not going to happen. But if you wake up tomorrow and say, I'm going to work towards losing 1 pound, and the next day next week I'm going to lose another pound. If you take incremental steps, that 1% change, the likelihood of you achieving that long-term goal is skyrockets. Now, having the long-term, don't get me wrong, having the long-term goal is good. You have to define those goals. Again, if it's weight loss, say, okay, I want to lose 50 pounds. But you want to set a very specific time frame for that. But then work on the day-to-day activities that need to get you to that place. That's the only way it can happen. You got to commit to doing something every day. Just one thing, just that 1%. If you'll do that one thing, the chances of you achieving that goal skyrocket. It's like this whole idea of compounded interest. You know, that's one of the greatest inventions of mankind. You know, you just take a penny a day and you save a penny a day, and then you just double your savings every day. And within a year, you've really amassed quite a fortune. Well, the same thing applies to your habits when it comes to these resolutions. Again, it's good to have the overall goal, but if you'll just do one thing each day that's getting you closer to that goal, that's going to continue to compound. There's, again, a wonderful book that I really suggest that everyone get called Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's totally reshaped the way I view many different things, whether it's your health or your wellness or your relationships or your work. It really simplifies this idea of compounding. He talks about the positive compounding that happens when you do this extra one task a day, this small thing that you do every single day. But when you add that up over an entire lifetime, it has a massive effect. It has an incredible effect. It's not like this, it's like this. The more tasks that you can handle, the habits that you form, the more likely you are to really become transformational. Nobody is this one night stand. Where did that come from? The one hit. I'm gonna get it out. You can tell this is live. It is the overnight sensation. That's what I was trying to get at. This overnight sensation. That's a myth. It doesn't happen. You talk to any entertainer, any athlete, any author, anybody who has achieved a level of success, and you think, wow, where did they come from? Well, most of where they came from was the trenches. They worked their behind off to get to where they are. And you just actually heard about it yesterday. There's no such thing as an overnight sensation. It doesn't happen. In fact, there was an interesting book that talked about in order to really master a particular task or particular activity, you have to put in 10,000 hours to really become expert in it. Now, I think that might be a little excessive, but it goes to the point that these daily practices compound over time to really provide the return that you truly want in the long term. The biggest mistake many people make is they try to do too much too soon. They get frustrated and they quit. We see it all the time with exercise. We see it all the time with weight loss. We can even see it in relationships. You try to do too much too soon and you end up getting sore mentally and physically. And that dissuades you, it discourages you, it keeps you from continuing. I'd much rather you go out and walk to the mailbox in the morning instead of walking around the block if you're not used to walking. And then the next day, go to the mailbox and back. And then the next day, go half a block. There was a great story about a fellow who lost 100 pounds, and he did it slowly. But what he did is he would go to the gym, but for the first 6 months, he only allowed himself to do one exercise at a time. And that way he wouldn't get dissuaded. He wouldn't get frustrated. He wouldn't get angry. He wouldn't get sore. Now, I don't necessarily say that's a great way of doing it. I'd recommend maybe doing a few more than one exercise. But my point is that you want to take small incremental steps regardless of what your goal is or regardless of your resolution. Your resolution may be to stop smoking. Well, I can tell you, when you look at studies, the success rate is much greater in people who do it incrementally than to try to stop at cold turkey. Now, can some people stop at cold turkey? Absolutely. But there's a whole lot of other smokers out there who tried to stop at cold turkey and it didn't work for them. And I think that the likelihood of them being more successful is that, okay, I'm going to decrease one cigarette every 3 or 4 days. And I'm going to celebrate those successes along the way. I'm going to pat myself on the back as I succeed in reducing those number of cigarettes. And I'm going to be proud of what I'm accomplishing. And that momentum snowball is going to grow eventually to the point where you can completely stop. And the same thing applies across the board, regardless of what you're doing. The one thing most of us still have is time. Some of us who are getting more mature than others maybe have a little less time, but most of us still have a good bit of time that we can make the most efficient use of it to get us where we want to be with our health and our wellness. It's never too late. That's the other problem that a lot of people have, is they feel like that, oh, I've already done so much damage that what's the use in losing weight or stopping smoking or stopping drinking or eating healthy? What's the use? Well, the reality is quite a lot. It's pretty remarkable what can be done even in people who are in pretty bad shape physically and mentally. There's a lot that can be done. So there's never a point of no return unless you're in a coffin. I mean, that's pretty much the last place that there's not a lot of coming back from. So anyway, going back to this idea of compounding, learning a new idea won't make you a genius, but learning a new idea every week, within a year, you're going to be a whole lot smarter. You see where I'm going with this? It's not a difficult concept, but it's one that really will make it much more likely that you're going to be able to stick to whatever long-term goal or big goal you have and be successful with. Now, the same thing happens negatively. I don't like to talk about negatives, but it's really true. Things like stress, that compounds also. So it kind of works on the other side of it. You get frustrated driving in traffic in the morning. That tends to compound to make you angry when you walk into work. And then you tend to find every little thing to complain about, and that makes you even more angry throughout the day. So stress, all the negative emotions can compound also. So you've got to be aware of that and careful about that. These breakthrough moments that we tend to think about as these transformational moments almost always happen because of what went on before. Let me give you an example. If I was sitting in a room that was very, very cold and I had an ice cube sitting on the counter in front of me, and I'm sitting there in that cold room and I'm increasing the temperature very slowly. It's at 28 degrees. Nothing's happening. Ice is sitting right there. 29, 30, 31, 32. Nothing's happening. 33. All of a sudden, that ice starts melting and it's gone. But it wasn't because of that transformational moment. It was everything that led up to that. If I hadn't raised that heat incrementally and gotten to that point, so it wasn't that moment, it's the transformation that happens before that. And the same thing applies to learning a new hobby or activity. I mean, you don't just start out being an excellent quilter. Not sure why that came into my head, but you just don't start out doing that. You have to take slow steps and progress along the way. That beautiful quilt that you gave your son for Christmas didn't just happen overnight. It was a long, drawn-out process. So the first secret to providing an adequate success in your resolutions is make 1% change a day. 1% difference a day in whatever your choice is. Slow and steady wins the race. We want you to be turtles, not rabbits. That's contradictory to what society tells you. We want it, and we want it yesterday. but you've got to really adopt the mental attitude of I'm going to make slow, incremental changes, trusting that the result will come. And that leads me to the second secret, is the resolution is great, but if you don't have a plan, it's going nowhere. Right? A goal without a plan is a dream. It's critical that regardless of what resolution you set, whether it's to lose weight or gain weight or have a better sex life or stop having a sex life or whatever it is you choose, you've got to have a well-structured plan for how to achieve that. We all set goals, and oftentimes many people set the same goals, but not everybody achieves that. Well, the people who achieve that are the people who have plans. And here's the great part. This is the fun part. You don't have to come up with a plan yourself. Chances are whatever you want to accomplish, someone else has done that. In fact, probably a lot of people have done that. So just piggyback on them. Get you a coach, get you a partner, get you an accountability person. Talk to folks that have accomplished what you want to accomplish. Use their knowledge, use their plans. Don't reinvent the wheel. Use the resources that are available to you. Find the resources. I mean, come on the internet today, I mean, you probably don't want most of the resources you're going to find on there. You got to be real careful about the searches that you do. You may find something you don't want to see, but if you can put the right stuff in there, the right input gets you the right output. So my point is this. Setting resolutions are wonderful. I love to start the new year. I love this sense of rebirth, regrowth. You look at every religion across the planet, and it talks about the importance of renewal and rebirth and a resurgence in body, mind, and spirit. And I think that's fantastic. And I love the idea that this new year brings on those thoughts. But you got to be smart about it. If you don't want to end up frustrated and angry and mad because January 15th, you blew whatever you said on January 1st was going to happen. So the two ways of doing that are very simple. One, be slow, be incremental. Just make that 1% change every day, and that'll get you closer. And two, have a plan. Make that plan measurable so you can know where you are. Make that plan simple. Make that plan rewarding, and make that plan effective. Piggyback on what others have done to get you to where you want to be. It's really that simple. Last thing I want to tell you tonight, and I think we've been going on about a half hour, which is about as far as I wanted to take you this evening. And thanks Rose and Tina and Anna and Connie and Sarah. Hey, Sarah! Sarah Spee. Sarah, a lot of you probably know Sarah. Sarah was a partner in our practice for many years, and she's watching tonight. Hey, Sarah, I love the pictures of your flowers and birds that you've been sending on Facebook. They've been great. So it's so glad that you're watching tonight. And April and Teresa and Michelle, we got a whole lot of folks watching tonight. It's great to have y'all with us. Again, I apologize for the hat for some of you Bulldogs, Gamecocks, and Tigers, but heck, y'all are all doing great. Give me a little bit of, throw me a bone here, all right? Throw me a bone. Want to tell you very briefly, again, we've got an open house coming up for any of you who are interested in our Mona Lisa Touch Laser. Some of you may be familiar with that, some of you may not. It's for the treatment of vaginal dryness, pain with intercourse, even some forms of incontinence. We're going to have an open house informational session where we're going to sit down and talk about whether or not it's appropriate for you. That's going to be on February 6th. It's going to be at our office. I'm going to put a link on the show note right here above the video. I'll put a link where you can register. We do have limited space, so if you have any idea of whether or not you want to just learn about it and find out if it's right for you, please go ahead and register. Of course, there's no cost to this at all. And it's February 6th at 6:30. Bring your spouse. A lot of times they really have a vested interest in this, if you know what I mean. Bring a friend. But please, you do need to register because we are going to have to cut off. Every time we've done this, we've filled up. So we don't want you to be disappointed if you want to learn about this. And I'm giving our WOW community people some little heads up so they can get their first shot at getting access to this procedure. And I'm working on, just for you wowzers, let me tell you, I haven't got it yet, but I'm working on being able to offer you guys a special discount off this procedure. So stay tuned. We'll hopefully be able to offer that exclusively to people who are a member of the WOW Facebook community. So with that, Happy New Year. And I hope you've made some really meaningful resolutions, but more importantly, hopefully you're going to be able to have a couple of tools now to be more likely to keep them. But most importantly, make healthy choices. See you next time.